Hello, and welcome to the WBGO studios. I'm Gary Walker. Poet, author, activist Amiri Baraka said, "This man has met Thelonious Monk." He was talking about Eli Yamin. But before he could meet Thelonious Monk, he had to learn the language. And at WBGO, we watched him for years learning that language at our Steinway Grand Piano, where he was also an intern, a part-time employee, and even hosted his own radio program. He was always at that piano. And that indefatigable yearn to learn would eventually earn him a place in the piano chair of the legendary Illinois Jacquet Big Band. And they would tour all the major festivals in this country and all the major festivals around the world. He recorded with Claire Daly. He has 8 recordings of his own music. As an educator, he created the Middle School Academy at Jazz at Lincoln Center for their education program, and proudly did the very first studio session at the White House, hosted by Michelle Obama. But he ain't done, man. 21 years ago, Eli Yamin founded Jazz Power Initiative, which is dedicated to young people, predominantly from Harlem, Washington Heights, Inwood, and the Bronx communities, to embrace this truly inclusive American music genre, a blend of African rhythms, of Afro-Caribbean and Latin fusion. And what this does is this inspires young people in the traditions of this music to help those generations of young people develop their creativity, collaborative skills, and independent spirit, regardless of their direction in life. Now, all of this work takes bread, man. And coming up on May the 21st, they celebrate their 21st anniversary with Celebration 21. It's going to take place at Symphony Space, 95th and Broadway in New York City. And we are proud to bring him and welcome him back home to WBGO, Dr. Eli Yamin. Dr. E in the house.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Gary, my old friend from 1986 when I first walked into WBGO to start mixing music calendars and meeting you and James Brown and Rhonda Hamilton and Michael Anderson and Becca Pulliam and Dorthon Kirk. And you just surrounded me with your love and your direction, your mentorship, and set me on a path that has just been an extraordinary life in jazz.
Well, Eli's always been a little old soul. Dorthon, I can remember a time when we were getting ready to have a gallery opening, and we needed some wine, beverages for the people. And she said, "Eli, run across to the liquor store and pick up some wine." And he said, "Well, I can't." She said, "Sure you can. Here's some money. Just go across the street and pick up the wine at the store and bring it back so in time for the gallery." And he says, "I can't." She said, "You can't. Why not?" He says, "I'm not old enough."
That's right. And as a matter of fact, I was the producer of that series. That was the first series I ever produced, 88 Alive, which was 5 up and coming artists at that time who I felt deserved wider recognition. We had Rini Rosnes, and Fred Hirsch, and Monty Croft, and it was a wonderful group of folks. And I think Dorthon, she was trying to show me this is how you produce. You got to have some wine for folks. What do you think? You're, above this? You can't go to the supermarket. You big producer now. And I was like, well, actually,
I need to tell you something. I'm not old enough to buy it yet. So that little old soul wasn't as old as we thought he was. And that's how early he started, folks.
Yeah.
Now, for 21 years, if I could paraphrase McDonald's, almost 7,000 served.
Yes.
By Jazz Power Initiative. Talk about the creation of that organization and what your intention is.
Well, we strive at Jazz Power Initiative to put jazz at the forefront of young people's experience. As you know, jazz has the capacity to transform lives, teaches you how to improvise, teaches you how to connect with the bluesy soul of the universe, teaches you how to groove with others and synchronize with them and swing. And it teaches so many life lessons. And so many of our schools, especially here in uptown New York City, but also around the country, don't have strong music programs. And if they do have a music program, a lot of times jazz is not a part of it. And so our students are being deprived of learning about Louis Armstrong and Duke Ellington and Tito Puente and Celia Cruz and Billie Holiday. So we strive every day to make sure that our young people are connecting with these traditions in meaningful ways. And we teach voice and we teach dance and theater. So we have a way of immersing children in jazz through the body of their instrument as the body.
And
Yeah,
voice seems like a natural because that's the instrument we all walk around with.
exactly. Exactly. And
Now,
you don't have to find,
when you were growing up,
yeah.
was were there avenues for you to study this music formally, or did you have to investigate on your own?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned I grew up in suburban New Jersey in Highland Park, and we had some basic music programs at our school, but it was all after school. It wasn't during the school day. And one day I'm down on the left side of the dial. I had a dial at that time and I heard WBGO. And that just changed my life. I heard Count Basie. And at that time, no internet. I went to the library. I got out records and I used to come home, listen to BGO, take notes on my mother's yellow pad, get the names, go to the library, get the music, and study and then I started jamming with friends, and it was very much our own independent thing. We started a little jazz group, started playing at the public library, and I met some kids from Newark, New Jersey, and I was in the Young Rangers, and we used to play Essex County Community College talent show. I was one of my first. We played a fish fry in Newark when I was still in high school. So we made our own experiences. We were just so passionate. We just tried to find places that we could play. And then we found, grown-ups who were like, whoa, these young people into jazz, and they gave us opportunities. And then I came to WBGO at 18 years old. It's
And
amazing.
you've done things for adults too, because following in the path work of I want to say Barry Harris in the Jazz Cultural Theater.
Yes,
There's a lineage, a line, a thread that runs directly from that to some of the other things you're doing for adults, right?
absolutely. I mean, I was very fortunate to spend 35 years around Barry Harris as a member of his workshop, learning from him, observing him. Went twice with him to Europe to see him teach a whole week in the Hong Conservatory. And I saw how Barry taught every level at the same time and was so welcoming to people of all diverse backgrounds. People would ask him, do you want to go to this university or that? He'll visit, but he didn't want to be on the faculty because he said, I want to make sure this information is available to people, whether they can afford to pay a lot of money for college or not. So that's what we do at Jazz Power Initiative. We have a workshop for adults called Jazz Power Community Workshop, where people can come get an hour of piano, hour of voice, hour of improvisation, all instruments, all levels, and it's a very moderate price so we can make it accessible to everyone.
And for kids, for the most part, it's cost free, is it not?
It's free. Yes, it's free. Our programs are for our youth are free. Mm-hmm.
And nowadays, if you walked into a library, it could be to check out a book called "So You Want to Sing the Blues," written
That's a,
by Dr. Eli Yamin.
yes.
So much of your education was informal, and it's that indefatigable urge that you had to learn more about this music form. And the special host for this event that's happening on the 21st at Symphony Space in New York City is a lady that also learned on the go, but she had quite a family to learn from. Her
Mm-hmm.
father was Louis Russell, who had his own orchestra and for a long time was the musical director for Louis Armstrong. And her mother, Carlene Ray, was one of the first women to ever graduate from Juilliard with an advanced degree in music. I mean, just unbelievable. And it's funny because the first night that I ever saw Carlene Ray, it was with Cat Russell, and they were singing and playing with the legendary Carrie Smith. But she was also part of the Sweethearts of Rhythm. I mean, this is the kind of home that Catherine Russell grew up with and would go out on the road eventually and sing backup with people like David Bowie and Madonna and Steely Dan and so many others, and would carve out her own career when you consider that Cat Russell made her first solo recording at the age of 50. And she's going to be the special guest host and performer on the night of the 21st at Symphony Space. It's Celebration 21, celebrating the Jazz Power Initiative.
Yes.
You and Catherine Russell have had connections on and off over the years, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I played with a lot of the folks that played with her mother, like Gwen Cleveland, and got to know Ross Townsend and Walter Perkins, this whole Queen scene, and then got to know Catherine a number of years ago. She was singing backup with Toshi Regan, and we started talking. And she told me of her plans to really go deep into early blues, and I resonated with that. So we stayed in touch and played many gigs over the years. I just played last summer with her in upstate New York with her band, which was a real gas. I mean, she's such a phenomenal performer, so hard swinging, and carries so much legacy of this music and love for the older part of the music and bringing it into the present. Because, I mean, people's, it's not old music. This music, even if it's 100 years old, it's got so much life in it. You know what I mean? And she's been a great
But you
friend.
have to get inside of it. I'll paraphrase one of
Yeah,
your early recordings. You can't buy swing,
that's right.
but you can learn it,
That's right.
right? You can
That's
learn
right.
it if you're diligent enough to do it. And the celebration, 21 years, man. Does it seem like 21 years of educating young people?
No, it doesn't. I mean, it seems like, I just met you like last week, it was like 40 years ago. I mean, the time it stretches, in all these ways. But the proof is in the pudding. I travel around and I meet people that were touched. I mean, even last year, I got contacted by a newspaper in Asbury Park. They said, "Is it true that you were Charlie Puth's piano teacher?" And I was like, "Charlie Puth? Oh, you mean Charlie?" You know, I remember when he used to come down to the Count Basie Theater, and I was teaching down there, and he became a very famous pop singer and star. And we reconnected, and he said, "I'm still using some of the chords you showed me in my pop tunes today." And I asked him, "Which chords?" You know?
Yeah, which chords are those, man?
Yeah, but I have a picture of him. Yeah, he's like right over here, over my shoulder.
That's
Um,
fantastic.
he. So that's the amazing thing is when you look back over the years and you know that you work with all these students and that you were able to connect them with this amazing tradition of jazz and learning how to articulate that idea that jazz transforms lives. I learned that at WBGO 201-643-4300. I remember all those years of pitching on the air and
Yeah.
us making the case because it's really true. And this music has taken me literally around the world and into people's hearts and them sharing their hearts with me. And I know you share this, Gary. It's such an amazing gift to us, those of us who get to be with this music and share it and give other people an opportunity to connect with it.
Now, as you get a new group of young people that come into Jazz Power Initiative to learn, are they very receptive right from the start? I mean, their eyes are open and their ears are open, and or do you have to like convince them about this world of jazz?
Well, I mean, we used to work with everybody. Now we do have a very basic audition process where you have to be willing to sing something to come in. So they're
I
at
see.
least, able to do that. But, jazz has these tools that are so welcoming. We do the stomp, clap, stomp, clap, stomp, clap, stomp, clap. We talk about it as an ancient tool from African American culture that's been used to get through hard times as well as times of great celebration. And some people just immediately can do it, or maybe they've done it at church or something. And some people struggle. So we slow it down and we say, okay, stop, clap, stop, clap. And then we start doing some call and response singing, some bluesy kind of riffs and things like that. And it's so infectious. It's so rare that somebody doesn't respond to that. I mean, it's just, yeah, it's universal.
And one of the interesting things that you do that's kind of a sidebar to all this, but it's actually for musicians, and you do seminars as musicians are traveling to other parts of the world to make them more readily acceptable to cultures and societies of other worlds that make the communicative process of this music so much more readily available.
Yes, yes. I was the education consultant for the Rhythm Road American Music Abroad program. So I worked with over 100 musicians going on tours. And, jazz musicians can be very heady. They can be very, they have so much technical knowledge, but they don't necessarily always realize that they also have incredible human wisdom that they carry. And so, some musicians, they're very excited. They want to show people how to play giant steps, or they want to show you the hippest way to go around rhythm changes. And for a general audience, especially if you're teaching through a translator, in another country, they're not necessarily going to be able to hang with you on all that. But if you can talk about some basic ideas, like how do you communicate in your band? How does the next person know when to solo? How do you know when a solo is over? How do you create drama? What does that mean to you in your music? I mean, these are things and that's why I love combining jazz education with theater, because theater shows us all these elements of storytelling that jazz musicians do, but they don't necessarily know how to talk about it very well. So that's what I try to get into with jazz musicians. We're doing those kind of presentations. How do you think about the bigger picture?
And you've had the wonderful experience yourself of working with, fantastic people like Claire Daly. I mean, you made a number of records with her and also performed with her. And there was a true sparkler in this music.
Oh, yes. She was so much heart and so much, and she was such a storyteller too. Each of her albums, she had a story that she wanted to tell. And we would spend hours and hours rehearsing for those record dates because we wanted to make it, the grooviest feeling we could. And as you said, like Walter Perkins says, you can't buy swing.
Yeah, you can't buy, babe, but you can learn it. And you can learn all about Jazz Power Initiative by going to their website, jazzpower.org. And better yet, you can come to Symphony Space on May the 21st.
Yes.
And be knocked out, man, because it's going to be just an amazing celebration. Eli will be there. Catherine Russell and her band are going to be there. And there's going to be kids there. They're going to do all kinds of stuff. They're going to show little clips of a documentary that they have, a kids documentary that's coming up. And also, you have it's I think the third or fourth musical you've done. Talk about the musical Saturn.
Message from Saturn.
What is that? Message from Saturn?
Message from Saturn. Well, that is the jazz musical for youth performers that will be performing on June 10th at Lehman College with our Uptown youth. And it's the first time we've done a full production of this musical with Uptown youth. The musical's been done over the last 20 years in Russia, Montenegro, Marcus Garvey Park, and Disney's Club Coca-Cola. But we're bringing it to Lehman College on June 10th. It's the story of three kids who get a message from Saturn that they're not playing enough blues. And the kids are like, what do you mean we're not playing enough blues? We're just three kids from New York. We don't even know what the blues is. And they're like, come with us. And they go on this space odyssey to learn about all the blues, the different parts of the blues, the beat and the swing of the blues, and the fact that you got to share something that's a vulnerability of you. And that the fire of the blues and the anger of the blues and the beat of the blues, they put it all together, recognizing that the blues is a healing song. And they
Message from Saturn.
yes, indeed.
Sounds like a natural for like Sun Ra, doesn't it?
Well, that's where I got the idea. I used to work with Noel Scott from the Sun Ra Orchestra, and he told me that Sonny came into a rehearsal one day and said, I just got a message from Saturn. We're not playing enough blues. And so I thought about that for 10 years. I was like, what would I do if I got such a message? And out came this story. So here we are.
And this is June the 10th,
Yeah.
Lehman College in New York City.
Yep.
May the 21st, Symphony Space is the place where
Yes,
you can
indeed.
come and feel the blues and all the excitement of Jazz Power Initiative for yourself and also contribute so it might continue for years to come. And you can find out more by going to jazzpower.org. What a gas it is catching up with you, man.
Oh
You
man,
know,
what a pleasure, Gary.
I
I
mean, I
so
see your emails and stuff, and I see all the exciting things that you're doing, and I think, the cat, he never stopped, man. He never stopped at that piano. Every time I'd walk down the hall at BGO, I'd hear music. And,
yes.
and often it was Eli at the piano learning that language so he could meet up with Monk.
Well, thank you so much for all you have done to create this space of jazz for people like me to be surrounded in it and to have a beautiful, beautiful life. Thank you.
Oh, and I'll tell you, man, the kids are in good hands, man, because anytime that you can move the ball up the field when it talks about creativity in any form, the thing about learning creativity in this format is that it's applicable to just about anything in life. Collaborative skills, learning how to work with one another. I mean, there's nothing more evident than musicians working with each other on the bandstand. Oftentimes, Wynton has talked about this, being on stage with musicians from other countries and nobody spoke the same language, but they spoke the language of music.
That's right. And usually when that happens, they play the blues.
Yeah,
The blues is the roots, everything else is the fruits.
there you go. Dr. Eli Yamin, the Jazz Power Initiative, the celebration of 21 years is happening on May the 21st, Symphony Space in New York City. I hope you're going to be there, folks, and you can find out more information at jazzpower.org. And I would imagine that's the same location where you can also purchase your place.
Yes, indeed. And you can register for our workshops and get more information about our youth program and our adult education as well.
And
So,
get that message from Saturn at Lehman College on June the 10th. Baby.
yes, indeed. Yes,
All
indeed.
right. Many more travels around the sun, my friend.
Thank you. And to you too as well, Gary. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
All
Smooth
right.
jazz.
Beautiful.